So he was like doing stuff with his motorcycle. And I just remember hugging, kissing him in the laundry room, like not knowing that would be the last time. My husband, he said that he had this awful feeling about Konnor. I checked his location and he's over at Abrazo. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I called the hospital. So when I called, they put me on hold for a minute and said, I actually felt oftentimes so selfish in my grief. Grief is so selfish. Like this is just so...
This is the Lost Child podcast, where we delve into the topic of losing a child.
Before we get started, we've noticed that only 20% of you are subscribed. One small way that you can show your support is by hitting that subscribe button. Our goal is to get this metric to 50%. As we gain subscribers, we can attract some of the most influential thought leaders in this space, which will help us all. It doesn't cost anything, so just hit that subscribe button. Now, let's jump into the podcast. Thank you very much, Ernestina, for being here on the podcast and being willing to share some of your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Just to get started, can you kind of tell us a little bit about who your son was that ended up passing away?
Yes. Konnor was full of life. He loved motorcycles. He loved all the sports. He didn't really stick with one for any length of time. He would master it and then move along to the next one. So he didn't have a lot of patience. And well, he had a lot of patience with video games, but that's about it. And
what's Konnor's full name?
Konnor Christopher Onstad.
Nice. And was there any tie to any family relationship to that or anything? Or did you just like the name Konnor? Or where did you come up with that?
Our first daughter, his half sister, because when I began dating my husband, he had an 11-month-old. So her name was Kaylin. So we decided to keep going with the K's. And then Christopher came from, I lost a best friend in my 20s and his name was Scott Christopher.
Oh, wow.
And then my husband's father's name is Chris. He goes by Chris. So those reasons.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have some different favorite memories about Konnor that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. One that I have that I often it really makes me realize how much I miss him is he was just a total slob. And he was living at home when the accident happened. So when I was running a daycare in my home, so he would often share his food with the kids, and he just would do very interesting, very specific things. Like he'd cook a big steak, and then on a wooden board, he would have like a pile of salt, a pile of pepper, a pile of seasonings. And, but what he would do oftentimes is be up in the night and do this. And then like before I went to bed, I would clean up the kitchen perfectly. And then I would wake up in the morning and you could see that Konnor had cooked his steak in the middle of the night. And then he would wipe the stove. We had like an electric, glass top. And you would just see that he really made an effort to wipe it, but just like spread the grease all over the deal, So, but I hated that. It drove me nuts. And it's like something I miss the most. Like when my girls are visiting and stuff, they'll always just try to leave messes and like, well, Mom, we were just trying to make you feel better. But something else, he just loved the homeless. He wouldn't just like me. I, taught my kids to like give to those in need. Like we'll buy them a bag of groceries or we'll, do whatever we can. I didn't really like to give money, but to give things.
Yeah.
But Konnor just took that to a different level. Like he would go and buy food and go and sit and eat lunch together with the homeless person. And then he would come home and tell us the craziest stories. Like, well, that guy over by the Circle K, this is his name and this is what happened. And his wife was sick and died. And like, he just gave me so much compassion, more than I already have, that these are like people that I'm sure maybe half. I mean, I don't know the situation. Some is obviously drug related, whatever. But there are many people that just fell upon hard times and just couldn't keep a house over their head anymore. So, yeah. And then there's one other. Yeah. Well, there's so many, but the other one is that, of course there's a lot. I know. My husband and I went on a bike ride and Konnor had a motorcycle and we had asked him if he wanted to come on a bike ride with us. And he was like, no, guys, like, cause this was maybe a few years before he died. He was 24 when he died. And so he we were just riding our bikes around the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden, here comes Konnor. So he literally took a bike ride with us on his motorcycle, but he went really slow. And then he would like go down one of the streets and then wait for us. And so it was just cute. He just did wacky things like that a lot. He was a goofball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about how he died and give us some context about that?
Yes. Well, we were at the house together. My husband was golfing, and Konnor was going to a friend's house right near Saraville and Yuma, the housing development back behind there. And it was interesting the way that it happened because he was on a FaceTime with her. So I met her, and as he was leaving, like he had the GoPro, so he was like doing stuff with his motorcycle, and I just remember hugging and kissing him in the laundry room, like not knowing that would be the last time.
Yeah.
Here's also a reminder to subscribe and follow this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Now, back to the podcast.
But I knew that he was going directly there because he had actually hung up with her and said something like, time me or something like that. Like, so I just knew that he was going directly there, and we had all of our kids' location. Konnor would often fight me on that. And it was literally like 6 months before he died that he gave it back to me, because he was always afraid that I would like judge him, or you're going to a dispensary, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I was like, no, son, like it just makes me feel better at times if I get up in the middle of the night to know where you are, you know? So we did have his location, but he was going straight there to give his friend a motorcycle ride, and they were going to have a barbecue. His friend lived with her parents, so it was, you know, going to be a family affair type day. And so I just went about Konnor left, and I just went about my day. He was on his way to Ashlyn's house, and my husband was golfing, and I went out to run errands. My kids at the time worked at Carrabba's. Konnor was working there. The kids, well, no, he had worked there, but my girls were working there. Yeah. So I knew managers there, but we had ordered dinner the night before, and we got like pickup to go food to eat with our friends. And my meal was just like, it had like 2 scallops in it or something. So I just happened to call and let the manager know, like, and she said, just come and pick it up. And it's just crazy to me to know that like I was picking up Carrabba's while my son was on the pavement dead. Like, it's just the way that it all worked out. So I couldn't go to Carrabba's for years. But anyway, ran errands, picked up Carrabba's, went home. And I hadn't checked Konnor's location. I just assumed he was where he was going. Yeah. My husband, when I got home, was just getting in the shower from golfing. And he kind of yelled to me, like, to come in there. And he said that he had this awful feeling about Konnor. And I'm the one that gets feelings. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what are you thinking? He said, well, I got this feeling. I checked his location, and he's over at Abrazo. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because he's supposed to be at Ashlyn's house, and he was going straight there. Because Konnor had a lot of friends with motorcycles. He would say he'd be one place and end up somewhere else. But I called his phone, and he didn't answer. So I was like, this just makes no sense. He always was really good about answering his phone. And honestly, he was the kid that would tell us if his toenail was cut too short. Like, he told us everything. So I called the hospital, and my husband was like, you don't need to call, like, cause I was such a helicopter mom, you know, and he was thinking that I was, and I'm like, no, I need to call. This doesn't even make any sense. So when I called, and this was like the beginning of COVID. So things were already a little weird. I didn't just think I could go rush to the hospital. I didn't know if they'd let us in. Like, so when I called, they put me on hold for a minute and said, yes, Konnor is here. But they didn't tell me anything else. And I said, well, can I come there? And they said, yes, you can. So we were driving there, and we reached out to our like group of our Christian friends, just sent a massive text out to a few close people and said, you know, we're headed to Abrazo. Pretty sure there was an accident. Konnor left on his motorcycle. He left the house at about 11:15. We then found out he died at 11:38.
Oh my goodness.
So, and we were just now driving to the hospital at like 1.
Oh,
so we didn't even find out he died until about 2. Anyway, so
Did you have that thought though when you were driving, like he could be dead, or were you just like, oh my gosh, this is probably a really bad accident?
I was not doing well. My husband had lost his job with TGI Fridays after 23 years of working there. 6 weeks before that. 3 weeks before Konnor died, we almost lost his retriever. We had to have this massive emergency surgery. And after my husband lost his job, and I've been so focused on finding us health insurance, I was just stressed. And I remember saying to Craig on the way to the hospital, I'm tapped out. Like when we get there, I'm just can you please talk to the nurses, get us checked in? Like, I don't know what we're coming into, but I'm ready for a breakdown. Like I remember telling him that. And so when we got there, he took care of everything. I was sitting in the waiting room and I was just bawling. Like I just I don't know what I thought. I started having very specific thoughts when we went into the room, and I'll tell you about those. Whoops. So when I was sitting in the waiting room and Craig was talking to the people at Abrazo, getting us checked in, this woman just started praying for me. I didn't know her. She just literally said, everything's going to be okay. And like put her hand on me and just started praying. And she just prayed and prayed and prayed. Like it was time to go. And her prayer wrapped up. It just seemed so unbelievable to me. You know, she didn't know I was a Christian. She didn't ask if I needed prayer. Like it just was amazing. So we went down this long hallway and we went in this room, and I still didn't really think anything of it, but it was taking a long time and no one came in. And at the time I had my daycare that I'd had for many years, and my husband was in between jobs. So I was telling Craig, I'm pretty sure Konnor's lost a limb, like something very serious has happened. I just know, but thought of him dying, never. And one of the reasons it didn't enter my mind is he had had a motorcycle accident in November, and this was May 31st of 2020. So we really thought when he had that accident, that was his first accident, and he had been riding since he was like 17. So we thought this was the accident, you know? So, and he had some stitches, but he was okay. So when this one came, I was surprised. I'm like, he already had his accident. What do you mean? Because everyone says like, it's not a matter of if, but when that you'll drop your bike, you know, but I was just so surprised that this had happened. So all these years he rode no accident, and then he had one and then one again, you know, several months later. Anyway, so we were in this room and we just started talking, and I said, you know, honey, I am going to have to close my daycare. Like if something is wrong to the point where Konnor can't care for himself, I am not going to be able to be a mom that can just have him go be somewhere. Like he's got a rehab at home. And I just kept telling Craig, like, I hope this isn't going to be too hard on us. Like, cause and he was like, no, whatever you need, we'll do it. Like close your daycare. He can be at home. And I was just, when those people, like, I still didn't know, like a policeman walked in, the surgeon walked in, a nurse walked in, like there were like 4 people that walked in.
Did they escort you to a small room then? Or
yeah, they did.
Okay, so they escorted you to a small room.
We're in this small room, and I thought nothing when all these people walked in. Like I really still just didn't even make the connection. Like, why would a policeman be coming in? And yeah, the surgeon just said, you know, we couldn't. We're really sorry that we just couldn't. I don't know if he said bring him back to life or whatever he said, like, you know, he died. And I was just like, I mean, yeah, it was horrific because I had it all figured out that it was something else.
Yeah.
So it was like extra shocking that I'm like, well, wait a minute. He just lost a limb. Like he's going to be fine. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. A lot of our friends, we had friends that were on the way to the Grand Canyon that came directly to the hospital, like our closest friends. And then another friend came, and then we had people in the parking lot that were just praying because they couldn't come in because they had been exposed to COVID. So, but we got to have like 3 or 4 hours. Well, I don't know. It felt like a long time, and it was really good for me. Like I am so grateful for having time to say goodbye. He had already passed. He died instantly at the accident. He was traveling west on Yuma, and yeah, is that Saraville? Yuma? I'm getting all turned around. Yeah, he was traveling west on Yuma, and a woman turned left in front of him, and he was he had done some weaving in and out, like going around the slower cars, and there was a bit of, traffic, and he had passed in the slow lane, which he shouldn't have done, but she just didn't see him coming. So he died instantly. He actually hit, we were told because they opened an investigation and everything, and we were told that seconds, or if she had a small car, like it would have all been different, because he's going this way, she turned this way. So he actually hit the side of her SUV. But if it wasn't an SUV, it just wouldn't have. It's just the way it happened. Yeah. So, but he had a helmet on, he had spine protection on. He took riding pretty seriously. He definitely drove too fast, but relatively speaking, in his older age of 24, he had really gotten some sense in regards to the way he would drive. So his motorcycle.
As a camera guy myself, you said that he had a GoPro. Did he have that?
He did not have it on. I was thinking that that might have been on, but I was trying to remember what he was doing. He must have maybe just having her on FaceTime, and he clipped all I know is he was moving his bike and it was on. So he must have clipped it somewhere or done something, but no, he didn't have it on the day of the accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And that extra shock because you had prepared yourself for something not as
catastrophic.
Yeah.
I know. It's just, yeah.
And was that helpful to have people at the hospital, like those friends that were going to the Grand Canyon and turned around and came back, and then the people that were in the parking lot praying for you?
It was.
Was that nice for you? Was it a benefit to you?
For me, it was, because I literally could not think. Like, nothing worked, and I didn't know who to call or what to do, and I just didn't know what my obligation was. I had a daycare. It was a Sunday. And I knew that my families would show up on the porch in the morning, and there was just no way I could do anything. So my friend just took my phone, called my mom, called my dad, called my sister, made the phone calls, because I didn't, as much as I wanted to focus on saying goodbye to Konnor, we had to get his sisters there. Like we had one that we had just flown back to Hawaii. She was going to college there. So they just helped orchestrate all the things that needed to happen, even right in that moment. And they actually all, except for the ones in the parking lot, came in with us and were taking pictures and video, because Konnor was just, that was the time I got sidetracked. But we had several hours with Konnor to say our goodbyes, and had FaceTimes, and, so the family that was far away could at least, have their goodbyes. But
that's really nice.
It was, he had like tubes, and because it's obvious they were trying to resuscitate him. But yeah, it was, I'm just so thankful to have had that time. It just was huge. I think in my healing, just to be able to smell him, feel him, touch him, like, even though he had already passed, like, it just was, I needed that, I could have stayed there for more time.
Totally get it.
So thinking about that, just time right after that, what were some of the things that the people did or said to you or didn't say to you that were really helpful to you then? And the context of that is other people that experience that have a friend that something like this happens, and they go, I don't know what to do. Right. So with that in mind, so thinking back to that, what were some of the things that people did or said or didn't say to you that were really helpful?
One thing that really stands out is my best friend. I would say of all my friends, is not the most nurturing one. Comparatively speaking, I'd be the nurturing one, and what she did that just left a lasting impression is that she never left my side. Like, I kept saying, you can go home. Like, her daughter was there in the hospital, and she ended up driving us home and then staying at the house. And I just needed that. And I kept saying, because I really meant it, it's okay for you to go home. Like, you just don't have to indefinitely stay here. And eventually she went home that night. She didn't sleep over, but I had Konnor's phone and it kept ringing, and just just having her there, and she wasn't even barely talking, but if I'd say something, she'd listen, or again, just to drive us home, or just to have someone. And she's definitely a more like less words kind of person. I have a million words, too many words. And she just was there and a constant. And if I needed something, she knew me so well that she was even thinking about things I needed before I knew I needed them. And like making sure I took at least a few bites of the banana or whatever, cause I just couldn't do anything. And she just consistently was there for me, but in a quiet kind of way, like she spoke when she needed to, but everybody had a lot to say, or had a lot of questions, and it's not bad. Like certainly through the years, there are things that have happened, but just having someone that you're really close with that knows you be there is huge for me. It was huge for me. Yeah. And I had my kids and I had Craig, but we were all in the same boat. Like I needed somebody strong outside of it. Yeah. And she's known Konnor for years, so I know it was devastating for her also. But it was just very comforting to have her.
Oh, that's really nice that you had somebody like that.
Yeah. I mean, we have a big circle. I don't want to like exclude anyone because we have a lot of amazing friends, but she lived in the neighborhood and just seemed like there, So.
Are there, or what are some things that took place for you as far as like coping, or I guess, so how soon afterwards did you have to plan the funeral? Did you even know like what you're doing, or were your friends helping you with that as well?
I did not know what I was doing. Our daughter, Karina, pretty much planned the whole thing with the help of our daughter niece. We took guardianship of our niece when she was 17, and Keely, my best friend at the time, gave an envelope of money to Karina. From Laura Johnson's office.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So yeah, like I guess they had a collection, and because it just was never like, well, I'm sure a lot of money was being spent on our Amazon account, whatever, but all I know is she took care of it. Karina bought everything that we needed. And then they had a friend come over that was making these cards to pass out, like an invitation to, but so he died on the 31st of May. And I think it was June 6th, possibly, that we had a little memorial. We had a motorcycle ride. So all of the friends, and then there was a photographer that was really good with action. He had done, he did like motorcycle races or something. He's a good photographer. So he actually took footage of the ride leading up to where we kind of even went by the spot where he died and then worked our way up to Estrella and had the memorial up there. So I don't remember a lot. Yeah. I remember a really good friend of ours dropping off 2 things, Jimmy John's and some incredible pizza. And I just remember having this was like a few days after Konnor died. I remember having my first few bites of food. Like I just couldn't eat. And it just, something was just so loving about having this food just appear, like it was just, and they were things I actually liked. Like Konnor used to work at Jimmy John's. So it was emotionally almost like comforting. I just took some bites, and I just remember that my body needed that. Like it wasn't even a lot of food, but just even a few bites, like I just felt nourished. I don't know, maybe emotionally too, but a lot of all of that was a blur. I didn't plan anything. If I didn't have my girls doing that, there wouldn't have been one. We had donated his body to Science Care. So he was cremated, and there was really nothing. I mean, there were actually some things that transpired. There always is, like, looking from talking to people, like things that happen that, you just, I mean, I would get hyper focused on something and I couldn't go to the next thing, even just function in life, until I was able to get answers. Like the 2 things that really bothered me. One was a week after his accident, probably after his memorial too, I started thinking about why the hospital didn't call us.
Yeah.
And I couldn't release it. Like I started just going crazy about it. And my husband was just like, honey, it's okay. Like, whatever he said to try to calm me down. I'm like, well, it's just not okay. Like my son was dead on the pavement and I didn't know. And, so I ended up calling the hospital and I got a really nice emergency doctor that explained to me that my son wasn't a minor, and once he explained the whole situation, it made perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And he said he looked up the records and said that there was a phone call that was made to my husband. I said, well, we didn't get the call, whatever, maybe they misdialed. And then the other thing is that even though Konnor was dead, his body was going to go from the morgue to science care. And I had to know when that happened. Like it was like, I don't know. I just needed to know, like, what does it matter? He's dead, but I'm his mom. And I just needed to know when his body was picked up from Abrazo and brought to where, it was going to be. I don't know why, but I kept calling. And then finally, they called me, and just knowing it made me feel so much better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, those were just two random squirrels.
No, you're good.
Well, and just take us from kind of all of that stuff to kind of the chaos around the motorcycle accident and trying to pick up with, what you're doing for work and all these things. Take us through like that next year or 2 years. Like what are some of those milestones that happened, or what were some of the things that you did to help work through some of those feelings that you had?
Well, then you had the daycare. So did you just completely be done with that?
My girls, because of COVID, we kind of had, the timing was good in that they were both furloughed or whatever it was. It was right at a time where, trying to remember what they were doing.
Well, one was at school in Hawaii.
Did you say one was at
one
Carrabba's?
was at school in Hawaii.
Working there?
And that might have been her night job. I'm trying to remember. Karina had just come home from NAU. I don't know. I cannot remember what the situation was, but the bottom line is they basically split their schedules and would come and do my daycare with me. So I think I took off a week.
Just 1 week?
Yeah.
And you felt like you could go back?
I'm pretty sure it was just a week because of my parent. I was so concerned about my parents and their jobs. But I'm pretty sure that after the memorial, I'm pretty sure I went back to work.
Okay.
But what that looked like is my girls being there with me for at least 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
They took turns being with me.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
they would rotate the third because it was a Monday through Friday. It was amazing because if I had to cry, I would just go in the garage and cry and scream and do whatever I needed to do. And my daycare kids knew and loved Konnor. So there were a lot of conversations going on, and it was very hard, but it was very healing because little kids, they don't worry about what they're talking about or think before they would this be an appropriate thing to say or no. They just were really wonderful, because they would want to talk about Konnor and go in his room and ask me questions, and we'd maybe pray before lunch, and then they would say, can Konnor hear us? Is Konnor with God? Is Konnor in heaven? All I wanted to do is talk about Konnor, and kids, they'll let you talk about whatever you want. Whereas adults, I would be, well, I probably shouldn't keep talking about Konnor all the time. I know I was even driving my husband crazy because we all deal with it differently.
True.
And I just wanted to talk about Konnor all the time. I still do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
that's okay.
makes me feel better. Yeah.
So that's great that was some healing stuff that happened with those kids. What are some of the other things that happened in that first year that helped you?
Because you didn't keep the daycare. How long did you?
I ended up staying with the daycare for, he died in 2020, and February of 2023, I went to work at Johnson & Associates.
Okay.
So I hung in there
Okay.
until I just couldn't hang in there anymore. It became, my friends would always say, how do you do this? Like, how do you do this daycare thing? And I would just say, I love it. Like, how do you get all dressed up and go to work every day? I get to be home in my PJs or whatever. But I said, you'll know, like, when I can't handle it anymore, because the minute a little child comes to the doorstep and I'm dreading it, I will be done with this because you can't. Like, I love those little children like my own kids. I gave it my all. And I started to feel like I was dreading it. And mainly because Konnor wasn't there. There were many days that he may just be in his room or go and come back. Or my home just felt a little dead for a while, just there wasn't this aliveness, and I probably, because I felt like that, I just felt, and I had the kind of daycare where I was just happy and we'd play Christian music and sing and just, it was a fun time. Like it just wasn't, it was just hard to be myself because I didn't even know where that person was.
And you're a new, like you're a new person, an alternative person.
Yeah.
Like, and you can never go
recognize
back.
myself.
You can never go back to the other person.
No, definitely not.
As much as you loved the other person.
Yeah. It's so true. But I will say that I've recently had some things like transpire in my life.
Okay.
And I just started being treated for menopause with hormones. And to make a really long story short, I am having, this May will be 5 years. And I want to say that I've reached acceptance. Like I have come full circle. The fact that for the first time in many years, my hormones are dialed in, which I think has really given me coping skills because I was lacking them. Like on the way to the hospital, when I told my husband, I can't do this, like I was already well into menopause. So I was lacking the ability to handle something that wasn't planned, like my husband losing his job, or by the time we got to the accident, that was my third unplanned thing within 6 weeks. I was but what I'm realizing is that I was really focused on the fact that I would never be the same again. I got into grief therapy after 1 year after Konnor died because I began to feel numb. And I am so alive. Like I'm a very loving, caring, always trying to help people kind of person. And I just didn't care about anything. Like 1 year out, I thought,
hey, we'll jump back to the podcast in just a second. If you love what we're doing here and want to support us,
buy one of these awesome t-shirts. We have these Shine Bright shirts, special edition for the Lost Child podcast. We have many different sizes of shirts, including a men's shirt and a women's shirt and a youth shirt. You can get your own, so visit the video description or podcast description, and there'll be a link to our Shopify store. So hurry quick, select a shirt size that fits best for you. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
I thought, I just don't care. I don't care about nothing. So this is a problem. So I found this counselor. He's great. And I've, been going to him for almost 4 years now. But I am starting to become the person I was before Konnor died.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I am definitely a new version of myself.
Yeah.
But for me, it's taken almost 5 years to be able to turn all of my thoughts and passions back outward. Like everything, I actually felt oftentimes so selfish in my grief. It is one of the most, and these are just my opinions, obviously, I'm not passing judgment on anyone, but I just kept saying to even my friends, grief is so selfish. Like this is just so, it's all about me and my grief. And I need you to talk to me a certain way and don't say this. And I just recently had a friend unknowingly just wreck my day in the middle of the week because of a group text. She just said something about her son and how she was basically expressing disappointment in something that happened. And she said, the boy moms always get left out. I felt like saying yeah, try having a dead son. And then you're really going to be left. That's awful, but you think these things you're angry and but she's one of my closest friends. But for a long time, I was very communicative. If people would let me down, my sister and I had troubles for a while because she would say very simple things like my son or my daughter, or when they were babies, or I don't want to hear any of that. At the beginning, and these are very normal things to share with your friends, your family, but you just want to anyway. So,
and the point of that is I agree 100% what you're saying is grief can make you very selfish.
Yep.
Right? Where it does. And it's a completely different view. And it's almost you taking, a 1,000-foot view from it instead. Because a lot of times you're so far in the weeds in grief.
Yep.
that you can't see anything else. And you're just like, no, this all impacts me.
Yep.
But that view is you're from 10,000 foot and you're looking down and you're like, oh my gosh, it can make someone very, very selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And it even made me that way with my own children. Like, I think now, just someone said after we hiked today something about her brother. And I thought, I'm actually at a place now where I can think my friend is saying something about her brother and how they went out or did something. Oh, their favorite thing to do is go to whenever they see each other for the first time in a while, they find the local donut shop. And I just, in that moment, my heart was broken for my girls. Like, they don't have a brother anymore. And the first several years, like, I couldn't even feel anything but pity and sadness and awfulness for myself. I mean, not even my husband. Like, it was just so awful that I couldn't even feel for others. And to think that my children, like, now I'm removed enough from my pain to be able to actually feel the pain of my children. But I couldn't. I just couldn't. I just was in too much pain, I guess.
How or what things did you do to get to that place where you were able to kind of remove yourself? Like you said, you have been doing therapy for the last 4 years or so. What other things do you feel like has helped you get to that point?
Time passing. I mean,
that one's hard though.
Honestly, I went hiking. Like, what I really set out to do very intentionally is a lot of things that Konnor did or that Konnor was passionate about. Some of the things that divided our family, like marijuana was not legal when Konnor was living. It became legal after he died. And it was a real point of contention in our home. Like, he had, which I'm not regretting any of that as Christians raising our children, but he was an adult, but he was living at home. And so we wouldn't even let him smoke in the backyard. It was illegal. I feel like it would be different now with it being legal. So he would have to go to the park and it just, it was just an issue all the time. Like, it just seemed like it would come up a lot. Oh, Konnor's high, or oh, Konnor this, or oh. And after he died, well, I didn't want to get high, but I just did want to do a lot of things that he did. So I didn't single-handedly do this, but my daughter ended up bringing me to a reggae festival. But, going hiking, there were other things that are not coming to mind right now, but I would Takis. He loved Takis. I wasn't crazy about them, but I would intentionally make a lunch for myself. That is exactly what he would make. And then I would just eat it and I would think about him or watch a video or look at the pictures, or I used to go to the spot all the time. Like, if I was giving someone advice on how to make the healing process beneficial, I would just say, feel all the feelings. You want to try to stuff it down or turn away but just feel the feelings. Like, go and do the things that are probably going to make you feel horribly sad and miss your person so much. But feeling all the feelings, I think, allows you to keep moving through your grief gracefully, as opposed to I don't know. So I doing all the things, I just did all the things, as many things as I could do. And in fact, a year, Konnor died and he left behind his golden retriever that almost died 3 weeks before he did. He had his spleen removed, emergency surgery. There was cancer. We found out it was cancerous. They said they got it all. He went back for a check a few months later. The cancer was gone. So after Konnor died, we just started doing a lot more with Dexter. He became he was already our grandson, but then he became our son, our hairy son, just Dexter this, Dexter that. We traveled with him to California. We did things with Dexter we would normally not do, went to restaurants. We just found all the dog friendly places. And pretty much when we were leaving the house, Dexter was coming with us. Yeah. And his cancer came back about a year after, right at the 1 year mark. And we didn't know, looking back at a lot of pictures of Dexter and videos and traveling, we didn't realize that all that time that we were being so intentional with Dexter, that he was literally we were making memories for when he was dying, but we were just so intentional in our grief to just love Dexter and just I guess our love from Konnor went to the dog, you know, so, but it was very therapeutic. I was so grateful to have had that time.
Dogs can be very healing.
They really can. Yeah. But when Dexter died, it was awful because I felt like Konnor was dying all over again. It was a tough loss.
Did it bring everything back?
It did. Because it was literally, he died in July, like
It's almost a year after.
14 months after Konnor died. Yeah. It brought everything up. It was devastating. Like it was just fresh all over again. Because what I found in life, and it's still kind of like that now, is anytime something happens that's not planned, I certainly get like PTSD feelings, you know, just like it doesn't even have to be a big thing. It's just uncomfortable when plans change and something shocking happens, you know, so.
Is it easier now though to work through some of that stuff? Like when Dexter did die, were you able to say, okay, but I've been through this before and this is how I get through this?
Right. I think everything is easier for me now that my hormones are dialed in, like honestly, because I have to like everything for me, because I've only been taking hormones since Halloween, the one we just had. So I feel like, and that was what I was saying earlier, like I'm having this rebirth of myself, like because I'm like, we aren't empty nesters. I mean, when Konnor died, we weren't empty nesters, but then for a year, our daughter kind of put her life on hold. She had just graduated from NAU and she stayed with us. So, and she's now in Portland. So we are truly like empty nesters to the point where we don't even have children in the state. Cause even when they weren't living with us, they would end up at our house all the time and grocery shop in our cupboard and eat over and sleep over and who knows what, you know? So, but I just feel like right now I am someone's mother and I am someone's wife, but I'm learning about myself again. Like it's really, I'm just grateful because I really thought that I would never care enough about anyone else again. Like it's a huge part of my life to volunteer, to serve at the church. Like when Konnor died, I couldn't step foot into our church until December. And that was because a friend talked to me, and I'm a every weekend church member. So he died May 31st, didn't walk into our church until I think it was like December 10th. It was one of the first Decembers.
Why was that so hard?
I don't know. Well, a couple reasons. Konnor died on a Sunday at 11:38. So I really just wanted selfishly again, like I just wanted to be wherever I wanted to be at that time. Yeah. I didn't want to be with a bunch of people at 11:38 because things would just come up for me. And I set the alarm on my phone and it's still set to this day. Like I want my alarm going off every Sunday at 11:38. That makes me feel better. My husband thinks that's a little wacky, and then I counted the days for so long, and I finally stopped doing that. But that was so important to me. Like I'm a counter. I count things, people's drinks, people's that's not a good thing, but that's what I do. Anyway, but what was I lost it.
It was you took so long to go back to church from May to December.
Why was it?
And so why was it difficult? And then another thing, I guess, that kind of goes into that same question is, did that impact your relationship with God?
It definitely impacted my relationship with my husband. I can tell you that. Okay. My relationship with God, I didn't think it did at the time because I would just be crying and praying and I just felt like God understood, For me, I just couldn't. My friend Keely that I told you about brought me to her church. Yeah. I would say 3 months after Konnor died. And I was literally hyperventilating in the service. Like I was just sobbing and crying. And I was so embarrassed. And I'm not even a person that gets embarrassed. I couldn't do it. I just felt triggered. Big groups for whatever reason were really difficult for me after Konnor died. Too many people just overwhelmed me. Like it just was too much, which is so bizarre because I'm the person at the party that's going and working the room and saying hello. And I want to hear your story. I want to learn more about you. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone, see anyone. It was really a struggle. So church. And I think the other reason is that this doesn't really make a lot of sense, but this is the best way I can explain it.
Okay.
That was the most intimate relationship that I had. And so if I was going to go to church and be like I normally was at church, which was just a completely wide open heart and mind, I would be flailing about on the ground because that pain, I had to have that pain with God privately. So if I went to church, I would have to act like I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't numb yet. You know, clearly it would have been no problem at right around the 1 year mark when I became numb to go to church. I mean, I was going, but maybe that's why I was able to go in December. Like I was just too raw to be in an environment where I couldn't be myself. Cause yes, I could be myself with my church family, but not if it was going to be distracting during, cause I remember saying to Craig, do you want me to be like wailing out in church? Because if you do, then I'll go with you. And he's really the type to like, let's just keep it all in a nice little clean box. Like when we're out and about. So but it was, the main thing was too many emotions. And I just didn't know how to do that publicly in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
But sorry. So you felt like your relationship with God was still good because you were still praying and everything.
Yep. I wasn't mad.
You weren't mad.
No, I definitely wasn't. I've had friends that I've talked to that have lost their children that have experienced that. I wasn't mad, but I was definitely wrestling with him because my son Konnor was baptized and a Christian. You know, we went to Palm Valley Church years ago but he was, before he died, not surrendered. I mean, he believed, but he definitely wasn't surrendered. About a year before he died, he was in the kitchen with us. I mean, crying. He was so upset because he just couldn't, like he had kind of fallen away, but he was trying to get back into the faith. But he was saying like, how can God let children die? Like children starve to death. Things happen like how... And it was just paining him so badly that he had a lot of empathy, like to a fault, I would say. He was just so burdened by other people's burdens. I unfortunately have that too. Not as bad, you know, but I might be responsible for that is what I'm saying. I might have given him that. But he just couldn't get past that because he's one of these guys, one of these people that he's all in. When I'm in, I'm going to be in. So I need to like really passionately understand it all. And he just couldn't get past that. But so for me, I had little things like a year before he died, I had wrote some scripture out for him and I hung it up in his room and it was still there. Like I didn't really pay attention to the fact that it was still where I hung it until he died. And then our friend gave him a Bible. He popped into one of our Bible studies, which he would normally never do, but he struggled with depression and he was down at the time. So when he was down, he would be more apt to do things that were out of character for him, you know? So, but it was really cool because our friends knew and loved Konnor and all the stages of his life and they realized where he was at. But my friend just like went to his car and gave him a Bible. And so that was still in the box, but on his dresser, like, and his friends would come over, like he wasn't ashamed. But my whole point in telling you this is it took me a long time to come to terms with if Konnor is in heaven or hell. And that was the worst part for me, because if I knew for a fact that Konnor was in hell, like, I don't even think I could be here right now. Like, I just, it's just way too much for my mind to digest. So I'm not saying that's part of the reason that I didn't go to church, but I know that it has taken me a long time to just trust God. Like the way my mind has accepted it is that there are so many things that have happened in my life that I have thought they would have been different or that my way is the best way. And I actually have finally reached a place in I'm 53 now, it's taken a while, where I realize and I actually firmly believe that God's ways are better than mine and that his plan is better than mine. So even in Konnor's death, it's taken me a long time to just feel that way, but I own it. And I think the main thing now is trusting that wherever God has Konnor. Wherever Konnor is, God knows and God is in control of it, and it was his choice. And that makes it okay with me. But that took a long time to
Was
be.
it small steps progressively got you there, or one quick snap that made it
No
get
quick
there?
snap. It was just all of a sudden I realized I am no longer terrified, because it would just ruin me. Like, that's another thing. I would be in church, even when I started to go, and worship songs would be on, or a sermon, and I would just start thinking about where Konnor resides at this moment. You know, something that they'd be talking about or we'd be singing about would make me wonder, or we'd be singing about heaven or whatever. And then, no, just slowly but surely I started to, it probably was like something that I heard or someone told me, like, God, we can trust God. Like, we can trust him with our loved ones, like our children, you know, that saying, like, our kids aren't ours anyway. We have them on a loan, or like, and I really do believe that I can trust God with anything. But it was just, it took a while to be able to trust him with wherever Konnor might be. Like, to trust that even if the answer is that he is in hell, that God has that, and that I have to, like, just trust that there's a reason for that. You know, I don't know. But I don't know. And I'm really glad I don't. And I don't know what's coming next. And I'm really glad I don't. Like, I'll be honest, now that I know the pain of losing a child, I am truly terrified that I will lose another one, because I do not feel that I could make it through again, another loss like this. So,
and that's a real fear that almost everybody that we have talked to can relate with. As soon as you lose a child and you understand, or a child dies, you understand how precious life is, and how simplistically, or how easily it got taken or removed, which then means another one can easily be taken or removed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because beforehand, at least on my perspective, I was like, oh, that's like so far out in left field that would never happen.
Yeah.
Right. And just like, now. And then when it does, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It can happen in a split second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pain is just so, like, I am further along on the journey than you guys are. So I can say that over time, I'm never going to be fully healed, but I feel very whole in my grief. I never could say that, like, even 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, something happened where, like, I don't really know. Like, I just woke up and I realized that I had maybe really truly accepted this, but I'm not losing sleep. At the beginning, I was that one of my other children would die, but I'm definitely, it's there. Like, it's something that's there. And I just, what can I do? Pray about it, release it to God. But yeah, it's terrifying. It's just that pain, I guess. It's just so awful and hard and debilitating that I just couldn't imagine having to miss another child again.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't happen to any of us again. But I've met people that it happens to, and that's just what's so scary. So
I agree.
Yeah. If you could go back and give yourself advice after Konnor died, now that you know what you know, what would you say to yourself?
I would say to myself that how I feel right now, like, I promise you, Ernestina, you are not going to feel this way. Even next year, or the year after that, or the year after that. I just knew, because I'm pretty stubborn, that was it for me. Like, my life was over. There's just no way. Like, I am suffering so greatly. I will probably never be able to help a homeless person again, or smile, or laugh, or just, I couldn't get out. Like, again, I felt so selfish. Like, I couldn't get out of just myself and how I felt. Everything was about me. Like, even the way my friends spoke to me, like, I felt that I was bringing up how they were hurting me too much, because I am definitely a very open person and I want to communicate about everything. And I just didn't want to pretend and just talk to my friends and maybe go to dinner and then pretend like everything was fine when it wasn't. Like, and I remember telling a few of my friends, I'm telling you this because I want our relationship to be open, but I don't want you to change. Because the last thing I want you to do is like tiptoe around me.
Yeah.
You just keep being yourself. And every time you accidentally hurt my feelings, I'll let you know. It'll make me feel better to let you know, but I don't want you to change anything. I don't want you to stop talking about your son. I don't want you to, like, I still want you to share all the things with me. It was the weirdest thing to even have to ask that, because it's weird. You're going to tell someone they hurt you, but then say, but don't change, just keep being yourself. But I really wanted that. I didn't want to hide in. I didn't want to stuff down all of the offenses. They didn't even do it on purpose, but I just like to be open and, you know, but yeah, I would just tell myself mainly that, like, I just knew that everything was going to stay like this. And I was just going to continue to feel this pain. Because I remember someone at my church, she's the one that told me about Hiking with Hope. She lost her son, I think maybe 3 years before Konnor died. And I remember her saying, she brought us food. We met in the parking lot near where the accident was. Excuse me, what did she say? I said, I just was so focused on like, will I ever get over this? Like, this just feels so permanent. And she said, no, you're never going to get over it, but you learn how to cope with it better. And it made perfect sense then, but I didn't believe her. Like, I thought, well, that's your experience, but it's not going to be mine. Like, I'm just done for.
Yeah.
But it's really true. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. There's a lot of ups and downs. And you think that, like, this feeling I have right now, I've had it before. Like, I really actually thought a few times that I was doing really great. And then his birthday came or his death month came, and I just would be wrecked. And I thought I was fine. Like, how could this happen? But it just brings up so much stuff. But just, I think the main thing, back to your question, is reminding myself that all of these feelings and this pain, it's always going to be painful, but you will be able to enjoy life again. Like, you will be able to enjoy your friends again, or enjoy a glass of wine again, or like, it just seemed like nothing was fun anymore. But it does get better with time, or even to be able to enjoy your loved ones. Like, I just felt so numb for a while, you know? Yeah.
Which this leads into like another perfect question is, because you're talking about like your relationship with your friends and being able to talk to them and stuff. How did your relationships change, either friendships or family relationships, after Konnor died?
Well, I think a lot of my relationships stayed the same. I'm very fortunate to have sisters in Christ as my friends. So Christians, like fellow Christians, just tend to deal with things differently than your average, like a non-believing friend, I feel. So I did get a new close friend. Her name is Greta, and I did not see that coming. And I definitely really nurtured that, because there was just something very refreshing about a new person. It saddens me to this day that she didn't ever meet Konnor, but I think that for me, new things have been good things, like whether they be friendships or a piece of furniture or a new house that we're in now, like just new. I'm going to have Konnor's memories with me no matter what. But for me, the phase that I'm in right now is just having new and fresh things. Like, instead of having our regular Christmas Eve of Chinese food and family, we went out, just Craig and I and the girls. That was completely something we've never done. And it was so perfect, because I wasn't reminded that there's Konnor's spot that he's not sitting in. And so my sister is like one of the closest people to me. And for whatever reason, I had a total aversion to her. It just broke my heart, but it was my authentic feelings. Like, and she's the last person on the earth that would ever want me to be anything but true to myself. So, just by being herself, like I was just having such issues with, she's just a very deep feeling, caring person. She knew Konnor so well and she was dealing, with his loss, but sometimes just even the way that she would explain something, or it was just too much. Like I just couldn't. So that relationship really changed for quite some time. There was just a distance.
Yeah.
And but I was honest with her and I didn't really have an explanation, but now we've come full circle and like we're closer than we even were before. And I didn't even think that was possible. So I would say that being open and honest with the people in your life that you love, even the ones that would be so hurt by hearing, like it is very helpful and freeing to yourself to be able to just be yourself and not have to put on a happy face for your in-laws or your sister or your whatever. Like people, I just think we need to allow, like you're asking this question about changes with friendships. I think it's really good to allow things to change if they need to, because we really do need to take care of ourselves and our grief. And it's hard to do that because you just half the time don't even know what the heck's going on. But I hope I answered that question right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's great. Then just kind of another question I would have is, how did you find out about the podcast?
I worked at Johnson and Associates in Avondale, and the day I was really open with Laura about my grief, and she was still to this day, like super sensitive to it and just with special gifts. And I'm no longer working there, but the day after, I think it was the day after Sonny died, she told me about you guys and what had happened. And I, of course, was devastated at the time. I was a couple years in, but I just was just devastated. And then she shortly after told me about your podcast. She just texted me the link and I began listening to it. And it really helped me for a while. But then I would just start to not be able, like, it was just too much. And I take a break. That's why I'm actually going in chronological order. I refuse to like go out of order. So I've been listening to it since you started it, but I've taken year breaks, like or months so I only just heard you two. That's where I'm at. Cause like I listened to that and now it's been however long since we had coffee because it was right after I listened to that I decided I was going to do this.
Wow.
Because I had listened to a lot and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And I did talk to my husband because I thought it would be great to do this together, but he just wasn't comfortable. And I just knew that after I heard you guys, that like, I just felt that the Lord was prompting me to do this. So, but yeah, through Laura Johnson, that's how I heard about it.
I love that you said the Lord prompted you to do it and you followed through. That's awesome.
Yeah, you always know when you don't want to do something and God wants you to. You're like, no, don't make me. But then you can't eat or sleep until you do it. I'm like, well, might as well just text Camille now. Or no, back then I emailed you. But I couldn't find the number too. And I'm like texting Laura, how do I get a hold of them? Like I had the nudge for like the third time and that's it. I'm doing it. I have to reach out to them. So yeah.
It kind of goes back to what you said earlier about how God's ways are, and his plan is different and better or higher than our plans. Yeah,
so true.
Our ways.
It is nice as time goes on and we can see all those things, layered together. And we'll never really see it, but it is just awesome to have looked back and see God's hand in the parts of our life,
I definitely know the scripture that references and where I'm currently sitting. It's really hard to see that though.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Just to echo what you said, right? Which is as time goes on, you can kind of see it in the midst of where we're at. It's really hard to see that.
I can imagine. And I'm so grateful for myself and for others that you guys were able to, in your grief and your pain, to get that nudge and follow through on it. That's awesome. Thank you. I believe it's helping a lot of people. I remember just hearing certain things that would help me, like the fact that I'm forgetting everything, or I just like I'm angry or I'm this or I'm that, just certain things that I took from each of the podcasts that I listened to. It was just sort of like, wow, I am normal. That's so nice. Feel normal.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us or share with the audience?
The only other thing, because we didn't talk about my husband and I a lot, is that we dealt with our grief very differently.
Yeah.
Within weeks, my husband was on the golf course and I was really mad. Like, that's probably another thing I would tell myself is to give my husband more grace. Like, it took me a while to realize that he is absolutely grieving, just completely different than I am.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to share that. I know we already all know this, probably the people listening know this, but just because your person is doing things like living life, going to church, he went to church right away, serving at church, like all the things I couldn't do. It goes both ways because he was frustrated that I couldn't do things, but the more grace that you can just extend to your loved one when you don't understand and you cannot relate, but just to give them the grace that God gave you. And something my husband and I did that was very helpful, and I would highly recommend it, is we checked in. We started going so far apart. I was so angry at him for golfing and going to church and serving and just living life. Like I expected him to, I guess, just
shut down,
be home with me on Sundays or whatever. And we started to have this monthly check-in. It might even have been weekly, and then maybe it turned to monthly, but just to sit down and talk about our hearts. Like, and there were a lot of things I learned. Like, he didn't want me to keep talking about Konnor, or not to say he didn't say you can't anymore, but I didn't know that some of the things I was saying and doing was making his grief journey harder just by being myself. So just being able to understand, like we would just come to a place where we would say, you say whatever you want to say right now. I'm going to say whatever I want to say, just so we can understand where we're at right now. Because you think that you're living with a person and you know, but we were so careful with each other. Like, you don't want to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, make a person do something they don't want to do. Like, it's just a whole nother layer of marriage. We had been married. We're celebrating next month 30 years.
Wow.
But it was like a whole new thing that we had never experienced. And we for sure went through it 100% different from each other. So I just wanted to mention lots of grace and as much communication as humanly possible. Even the dumb little things, like the way that you just said that just really made me mad or whatever. Like, it's just because I think it is so easy for a wedge to get put in there and then for it to just grow and fester and grow, because at the center of it is your dead child. Like, honestly, it's awful.
Yeah.
And I just would say communication and grace.
It's easy for resentment to come in, right? And so then the question I would have is, right, you guys started having these weekly or monthly check-ins. What spurred that on? What did he come to you? Did you come to him?
No,
like, hey, we should do these weekly check-ins.
No, I really did.
I know, but what started?
I asked him.
Okay.
Yes, I literally started to hate my husband, and I was like, if I don't talk with him about this, this is not going in a good direction. Yeah. So I just went to him and I said, I'd really like to do this. Will you do this with me? And he said, yes. Yeah. And some of I can think of one night in particular that we were in the backyard on a blanket and we had our time out there, and it was just so amazing. Like to actually have a planned time. Yeah. You actually would talk about things that maybe you wouldn't normally. Cause like he's coming to this time knowing that he's going to share his heart, you know? Yeah. And he did that. Like there were a few things that I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know you felt this way, but how would we know? Cause we're just trying to like stuff it down and get through life. You know, like you a lot of times have to do that. Cause your life goes on. You got to work. I remember just wanting life to just stop. Like everybody just kept moving. And I'm like, Konnor died. Like we just need to stop. Like I felt like I needed time to grieve, like even a whole weekend of just nothingness. So I could just feel like I wanted to I remember wanting to just be in a room alone just so I could just grieve all of the Konnors, like every age. Like I just would want to think about, I just spent a lot of time I spent a lot of time thinking about all the time I wished I had to just think about Konnor. Like I just wanted to think about him all the time. It's very interesting. That was in the beginning. Like it's definitely a lot of different phases.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I was just
definitely.
talking to my friend about how I used to go to the spot all the time where he died, all the time. There's a cross there. We had a little notebook and a pen for people, whoever was going, leave a note to Konnor, to each other. And I just don't go anymore. Like I just went for the first time in a year because it's become more painful now, not comforting.
Yeah.
But we just changed so much throughout this whole thing. And I'm sure I have a ton more changing to do. So yeah.
That's amazing though, that you were self-aware enough to go to your husband and say, hey, let's do this like check-in
Please.
thing. Right.
Yes.
And even talking about that time on the blanket where you said it was wonderful and he shared some things you didn't. From a male perspective, there's times where in a husband setup where sometimes in my mind, I'm like, okay, is this a moment where we can actually share like some of the things that are like weighing on my heart? And so it's nice to have a planned time of like, okay, this can be right.
Yes.
I can do it then, instead of kind of, sometimes you're kind of like, do I share now? Do I not share?
No, for
do I
sure.
hold it? Right. And there's this whole, from a guy's perspective, that you're just kind of like dancing around this thing
Oh,
when it's
for
like,
sure.
here, nope, this is a set time. This is
Yep.
what we're going to do. And we can share with each other how we are that week when dealing with Konnor. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
Like, however that came up, like I might have said, like somehow we learned to ask each other, like, how am I helping your grief? How am I hurting your grief?
Oh,
we
that is
went
a
on
great
this
question.
retreat. We went on this retreat and it might have been after that.
Okay.
It was a weekend retreat with grieving parents. It was amazing, through the Nancy Guthrie, whatever that would be called. And that was one of the questions, like how you hinder or help your loved one. And so, but I would have never known that by talking about Konnor, that was hurting Craig. Now, that didn't mean I was going to, stop talking about Konnor.
Yeah.
But I could definitely be more aware. Like I have a million girlfriends that are, not a million, but tons of friends that are willing to hear about Konnor.
Yeah.
If it's triggering my husband for whatever reason, if he's in a phase where talking about him all the time is, I know that I went through a period of time where every single thing I did was all about Konnor, like something that was not even related to Konnor. And Craig would say, well, did that really have anything to do with Konnor? I'm like, well, for me, it did. Like, I don't. So, but yeah, he definitely felt safe. He would have never shared that with me. Here he is, my husband, it's our kid, to say like, stop talking about our dead kid. But no, it was great that we did come to the talk knowing that we were just going to be really vulnerable with each other and extend grace. And it was very informational. It's good to kind of know where your person is, you know, with everything.
Do you guys still have check-ins? Or
No, we don't. I think at some point
Kind of
we
phased
just
out?
stopped doing that. I mean, unfortunately, he just has natural check-ins with me all the time because I'm an over communicator. And then, I'll be saying whatever and I'll say, well, how do you feel about this? Yeah, I'm all about all of that stuff. So but not grief related, you know? Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, just some key takeaways that I've kind of gleaned from this is working through some of the stuff on your own and having time, like you even said, weekends or whatever, to grieve and kind of think through those things, communicating with your friends, communicating with your other children and with your husband on different stuff. And then also continuing that relationship with God to try to, over time, be okay with whatever this is that it's here, right? So so those would be some of the key takeaways that I took from this.
Nice. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast and sharing your story and honoring your son, Konnor. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so
And
much.
My pleasure. And just sitting here looking at this beautiful picture of Sunny.
She's very beautiful.
It's the perfect spot. Thank you for sharing her with us, all of us.
Thanks for joining us on the Lost Child podcast. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. And remember, shine bright, and we'll see you in the next episode.